Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a really basic question about how the U.S. government works.
Yeah, we're looking at why power is divided up the way it is.
Exactly, this whole idea of the separation of powers.
Hmm.
Why did the people who, created the country structure things this way?
It's a great question. We see the president, Congress, the courts all doing different things. Why not just lump it all together?
So maybe let's start with what came before this system. What was the first attempt at a government?
Right. So after independence, you had the Articles of Confederation, and it was, well, think of it like a very loose club.
A loose club. How so?
Well, the states kept most of the power. The central national government, it was really quite weak.
Okay.
No strong leader like a president we have now. No national courts to handle big disputes between states either.
So kind of like separate entities just trying to vaguely cooperate.
Pretty much. Congress existed, but its powers were, let's say, limited. It could make laws, sure, but it couldn't really force the states to follow them.
Yeah.
And collecting taxes, that was a real struggle. You can see how trying to run a whole country like that would be difficult.
Yeah, sounds messy, inefficient.
It was. A lot of leaders quickly realized, this isn't really working.
So what did they do? How did they shift from that?
Well, because the articles were seen as, frankly, failing, leaders from the states got together in Philadelphia. This was 1787.
Constitutional Convention, right.
Exactly. Think of it as a major meeting to figure out a better plan, a new plan for the government. They debated all sorts of ideas.
So not just tweaking the old system, but really building something different.
Oh, yeah. They knew the articles were too weak. They needed a national government that could actually, govern.
And the outcome of that meeting was?
The Constitution of 1787, that's the blueprint we still use today. It set up a stronger national government.
Okay, and this is where the core idea for today comes in separation of powers. Can you break that down simply?
Sure. So they create this stronger national government, right? But they're also super wary of making it too strong.
Right, the whole king thing they just got away from.
Precisely. They didn't want one person or one group holding all the cards. So the big idea was divide the power, split it up.
Into different parts or branches?
Exactly. 3 distinct branches. That's
Yeah.
separation of powers, in a nutshell, dividing government authority to prevent any one part from getting too dominant.
Okay, let's get into those 3 branches. First one is the executive branch. What's its main role?
The executive branch, think of that as the doing branch. Its job is to carry out the laws, to execute them.
And the head of that branch is the president.
That's right, the President of the United States.
So what does the president actually do? They're the leader, but what's the core function?
Their main job is to ensure the laws Congress passes are actually implemented and followed. They oversee the vast machinery of the federal government.
And they don't do it alone, right? There's the cabinet.
Good point. Yeah, the president has advisors, the cabinet. These are typically the heads of major government departments. Think defense, treasury, education, etc.
So they help the president make decisions and run things.
Exactly. They advise the president and help manage their specific areas of the executive branch.
Okay, so that's the branch that carries out laws. What of the branch that makes the laws?
That would be the legislative branch. Their primary function is lawmaking. For the U.S., we call this branch Congress.
Congress. And it's not just one big group, is it? It has 2 parts.
Correct. It's what we call bicameral, meaning 2 houses or chambers. You have the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Let's take the House first. How is representation decided there?
In the House, it's based on population. So a state with more people gets more representatives.
Makes sense, giving more populous areas more voice.
That's the idea. It reflects the population distribution across the country.
And the Senate. Is it the same deal?
No, the Senate works differently. Every single state, no matter its size or population, gets exactly 2 senators.
You.
Always. Always 2. This was a really important compromise at the convention. It ensures that smaller states have an equal footing with larger states in at least one part of Congress.
Ah, okay. So one house based on population, the other giving equal voice to each state. A balance.
Precisely. It balances representation by population with representation for the states as entities.
But that covers the lawmakers. Now, the third piece of the puzzle, the judicial branch. What's their job?
The judicial branch is all about interpreting the laws. They decide what laws mean and if they're being applied fairly.
And they also check if laws follow the main rule book.
Yes. A huge part of their job is determining if laws are constitutional, if they align with the U.S. Constitution.
And the main player in this branch is?
The Supreme Court, it sits at the top of the judicial branch.
The highest court. What's its key function we should remember?
Its most critical role is judicial review, deciding whether laws passed by Congress or actions taken by the president are actually allowed under the Constitution. Their rulings are final.
Okay, so we have these three branches. Executive carrying out laws, legislative making laws, judicial interpreting laws. Now, back to the big question. Why? Why did the framers bother with this complicated division?
Well, it really comes down to their experiences. The Articles of Confederation showed them firsthand that a government too weak couldn't function. It couldn't manage the country effectively.
Right, we covered that inefficiency.
But at the same time, they were deeply suspicious of concentrated power. They had just fought a revolution against a king they saw as tyrannical.
So they didn't want to accidentally create an American king or an all-powerful Congress.
Exactly. They were walking a tightrope. They needed a government strong enough to work, but not so strong it would threaten people's liberty.
So separation of powers was the solution.
It was their core solution. By dividing power, giving different jobs to different branches, they built in safeguards. The idea was to prevent any one branch from becoming dominant, from overreaching.
Kind of like building walls between the different power centers.
That's a good way to put it. It creates a natural tension, a balance. Each branch has its own responsibilities, limiting what the others can do, at least in theory. It was a deliberate design to protect freedom.
So it wasn't just an abstract idea, it was a very practical response to avoid the problems they'd seen, the weak articles and the powerful monarchy.
Absolutely. It was born from real-world experience and a deep-seated fear of unchecked government authority. They believed this structure was essential for a stable, free republic.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up then. The separation of powers, a core feature of the Constitution.
Definitely. The bottom line is, the framers learned from the Articles that a weak central government was bad news, but they also remembered the dangers of too much power in one place, like with the British king.
So they needed a stronger government, but a safer one.
Exactly. Their solution: split the power of this new national government into three distinct parts: legislative, executive, judicial.
Each with its own job description, essentially.
Right. This structure, this separation of powers, was designed to create balance and ultimately to protect the people's liberty from potential government overreach.
It's pretty remarkable how that structure, designed so long ago, still defines the U.S. government today.
It really is. It shows their attempt to grapple with that fundamental tension between effective power and individual freedom.
All right, before we finish, here are a few questions for you to think about based on our chat.
Okay.
First, what were some of the main problems with that first government under the Articles of Confederation? Why wasn't it working well?
Second, if you had to explain separation of powers in just a sentence or two, using your own words, what would you say?
Third, can you name the three branches of the U.S. government and the main job of each one?
Fourth, why did the people who wrote the Constitution think dividing power like this was so crucial? What were they trying to prevent?
And finally, think about it. Can you come up with a situation where having these separate branches might actually be really helpful in stopping a potential problem or preventing an abuse of power?
Some good things to chew on there.
Definitely. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the separation of powers.
Glad to be here.
We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.